These stones, it seems, can only be brandished by beings of extraordinary strength. Observe.
Phase 2, it's on.
Yeah, hello everyone. We are here to discuss the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 2 films.
Beautiful.
Phase 2 starts off with Iron Man 3 in 2013. The setup kind of is like, oh, the Mandarin. We're doing the Mandarin. That's the villain. And then, of course, there's a big switcheroo. Turns out he's actually just a British guy, an actor who's been hired to be a fake Mandarin and take credit for all these attacks.
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah, there was a lot of backlash regarding that. Shane Black, director of Iron Man 3, said that there's like a short, I guess, that came out that I have not seen. That's like The Man Who Would Be King or something. That's not that's that Sean Connery movie, I think. And he said that he believes that that was made to kind of appease those people. He kind of said that like, I feel like they wanted to see like lasers shooting out of his rings, and I just wasn't really interested in that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I have not read the source material, so maybe Mandarin is really great or something. He's a great character, but yeah, I don't know how you do that without it just being very insensitive, essentially.
Yeah.
There's like multiple villains, and it's kind of hard to know who's like the one to take seriously.
Yeah, the Killian Aldrich is the overarching villain, and Osama bin Kingsley is more just like a patsy.
Initial drafts of this script had a female antagonist that was the main villain. Corporate of Marvel Studios was like, no, because they didn't think the toys would sell well enough.
Of a woman.
And so they had to reject that and just like, fuck you. Like
Right.
big, massive, just fuck you. And apparently like throughout the revisions of the script, essentially like all of the female characters, their parts in the movies were reduced. Shane Black has said that Kevin Feige was not responsible for that and that he has like pushed that shit out since he's taken a more prominent role in Marvel Studios.
Well, you would almost have to be like a big Marvel fan, because a lot of the big powerful characters are women. Scarlet Witch and fucking Captain Marvel.
There were talks of Pepper getting in the suit at the end of 2, but Marvel wasn't ready to do it yet.
Tony's like pulling up the crime scene after this guy blows up, and Happy Hogan gets sad.
Dude, their fucking Dan Brown moment.
Yeah, he's looking at the 3D recreation of the crime scene. He sees that Happy is pointing
as he's
suspiciously, and he triangulates that shit, and he's like, aha, when is a bomb not a bomb? When it's a misfire.
Which we don't understand.
Yeah, I'm still
We've been talking about this since we
that.
watched it.
Is it not still a bomb if it accidentally goes off?
Yeah, like, isn't that the bad thing about a misfire? Because it's a bomb going off?
I thought he was going to be like, when it's the bomber, or when it's a person.
It's a man.
Yeah.
My favorite part of the movie, when they find out the house is being attacked by seeing the missiles flying toward the house on the news.
Not the giant windows.
But so then he's like, Jarvis, take me to the middle of nowhere. Get me off the grid.
The middle of nowhere, Tennessee, baby. Rose Hill, Tennessee, boy.
Which doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
There's a young boy who finds Tony Stark, and this child apparently has no parents anywhere. We see no sign that he has any relatives. Do you know who Shane Black likened this character to?
Himself as a young child.
He said that he saw this child character as the ghost of Christmas past. Doesn't that make sense?
It all makes sense now. The whole movie just came together for me.
Don't you definitely understand that? Oh, because that's another thing. This movie's set at Christmas.
Yeah.
Because apparently that's like a Shane Black thing, which I didn't realize.
Really?
Like a lot of his movies
He's
are set
just a
at
festive
Christmas.
kind of guy.
You stop and you take stock at Christmas. You reflect upon things. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why I love Christmas. So I just have always liked it. Of course, now, like I say, it's done. You mentioned it, it's done. Because it's a gimmick now for me.
And then for all the, political machinations and stuff of all the plot, that by the end of the movie, you just get a big fight you know, we're just fighting in the Iron Man suits and we brought all the suits.
That is to me, kind of a brutal scene to watch. It just keeps going, and there's so many suits.
We went sort of hog wild when we were told that there should be extra suits.
We created 41 suits.
And you're like, I get it. He can get in any of the suits. He's going to have to get in every suit, I guess. So for 4 months, the digital effects people worked 7 days a week, 14 to 18 hours a day. And during that entire time, they had 1 day off.
Hundreds of artists work on it. It's a frame-by-frame job. It's just handwork.
This movie made $1.2 billion. But, like, is anyone under the illusion that that's going to go to these people who worked 14 to 18 hours a day?
Any percentage of that.
Like
they're not getting
so
anything.
much of that just went to Bob Iger. We here at Outside Intel are proud to introduce a new rating system when we're doing our MCU videos. Maybe not every single time, but there's the possibility for us to give a film 2 ratings. One of those is its Marvel movie rating, which is how it compares to other Marvel movies within the MCU, and then there is a regular movie rating. Yeah. That is how it stacks up just in the pantheon of film. So what would you say, because I don't know if we would even give this one a regular movie score, because it's schlock. What's your Marvel movie score for this one?
If I was to rate it right after the end of phase 1, having not seen the rest of phase 2, I probably would have given it like a 6.
Okay.
Having now seen the rest of phase 2, which has some of the best Marvel stuff so far, this is more like a 4 or 5.
I agree. I think it's like a 4.5 maybe.
Just hold on, all right? I'm coming. Just hold on. Hold on.
I think what we ultimately concluded with the last video is that we kind of went up in our ratings of stuff. Like, they kind of gradually got better.
Yeah.
So we kind of almost reset here at the beginning of phase 2 to like, okay. And that continues with Thor: The Dark World.
Yes.
Which I was telling you, even after we watched it, I'm not sure why I dislike it so much. Because there's a lot of bland Marvel movies, but for some reason, this one just takes the cake.
Yeah.
And it seems like that is the consensus.
Is that why everything's on fire?
I think the problem is, what's the most interesting thing about Thor's character, relationships, and storyline? It's probably him and Loki.
Yep.
And their whole thing with their dad.
Yep, that's right.
And you can't make the whole second movie that, because we just did that. So they shift it to Thor and Jane Foster's relationship.
Yeah.
Which is one of the most chemistry-less romances that I think I may have ever seen. Something about Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman just are not selling that they're into each other.
But I do know this.
Know what?
I know that...
That what?
Now thinking about it, I wonder if part of that is due to almost the stiffness of his performance due to that character. Like, he has to do the I am an Asgardian, Jane Foster.
And also, I think Natalie Portman just doesn't care about being in the Thor movies. She's clearly phoning
She's
it
getting
in.
the bag.
She's turning in that Padme performance, you know?
Hey, what are you talking? That's Oscar-worthy acting.
So love has blinded you.
Also, can we say the prisons in Asgard are a hilarious, like, kind of mismatch or misalignment of the aesthetics of these movies? Because the outside of the cells looks like ancient Norse type stuff, but then inside the cells looks like an Apple store.
It's like an IKEA display. This is another one that's just like, the script is such a Frankenstein's monster that one of the writers said at a point that there were so many people who'd worked on the script, he was worried that he and another guy wouldn't get credit for their work on it.
There just wouldn't be room on the screen to fit all the names.
So apparently Taylor, the director, has said that he thinks the final product and the poor reception to it, that like Marvel Studios is to blame, and the changes that they made in post-production, and that he has floated the idea apparently of like, I wouldn't be opposed to doing a Snyder-esque director's cut. And I'm like, we're all good.
Yeah, we're good on that.
There's no internet petition for that one, buddy.
Release the Taylor cut.
Yeah, sorry, man. That one's not happening. So, all right. So what's your rating on this one?
This is another one I don't think even needs a regular movie rating.
Nope.
Because that'd be low as fuck.
Yeah, it's like a 2. Like a 1.5, a 2.
On a Marvel movie scale, I would say not much higher, honestly. If I put Thor 1 like at a 5, this would maybe be like a 3.
I think so. It almost seems crazy because it's so low.
Yeah.
But it's also
just not enjoyable.
It's not enjoyable, and then comparing it to the others,
yeah,
it is especially not enjoyable. So yeah, I think I have to agree, like 3.5 maybe. And then
out of nowhere,
we take this incredible climb in quality. We're talking about Captain America: The Winter Soldier, a fucking badass movie.
It's the first Marvel movie that I would say I loved.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like 100% agree with that. Feige described The Winter Soldier as a 70s political thriller masquerading as a big superhero movie.
Accurate.
I wonder if maybe like that's why it works so well. It's not really a Captain America movie. It's like, it's this kind of Robert Redford spy film.
S.H.I.E.L.D. has been taken over from the inside, and now Robert Redford is leading this helicarrier mind reader project.
Yeah.
And he's trying to like convince the other, I don't know if they're like stakeholders or people from the government or who that fake Jedi Council is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But they're important because they have a whole room dedicated to projecting their images into empty chairs that are just sitting there for them to project into.
Yeah, they have chairs just for their holograms. Steve Rogers is also feeling the pangs of nostalgia because he goes to his own exhibit, like the Smithsonian.
Checking out some pre-serum and post-serum pictures of himself.
Yeah, dude, which, you know, I was telling Addison, I think I'm currently in my pre-serum phase, but I would like to quickly move into a post-serum phase.
I've just been on a serum cycle, you know? And what's great about it, too, is people are just getting murked all over the place. Just
everywhere.
Everybody. Even Captain America, he doesn't use a gun, but in that first scene, he's like knocking people off the ship. He's like, in a lot of movies, a character like Captain America they'd have a scene where he goes, no, we can't.
Oh, yeah.
We need to capture them. And
you are correct
in
that.
And I'm relieved that there was none of that.
Yes, that was money. That was money.
They have this secret encrypted algorithm on the USB drive.
What kind of algorithm? What does it do?
And they need to go somewhere to activate it and open it, because as soon as they open it, it's going to signal to S.H.I.E.L.D. that they're opening this file. So they go to an Apple store, like a literal Apple store this time.
Yeah, like I think we've made a couple jokes about places looking like Apple store. They go to a literal Apple store.
At the Genius Bar.
Yeah, like use like the laptop at the Apple store.
The display laptop.
Romanoff doesn't have a Kinect that can do tech shit. She's been a spy for how fucking long? You're truly not going to give me the overweight greasy man
I know.
With multiple screens on his desk?
In the basement.
Yeah, come on. It writes itself. A couple criticisms of this movie. One, I think that this also suffers a little bit from the really great buildup, and then it's destroying the 3 helicarriers, and now we're fighting in the helicarrier as it's spinning.
Crashing. And
how much does this thing weigh? And it's falling
in slow motion.
Yeah, it takes it 15 minutes to hit the fucking ground. Crazy. But you do kind of get that, and at a point it does start to feel a little excessive. It's still very good within that, like the action within it is very good, but it's just like that as a set piece is like, okay. Come on! And then again, they kind of do this. Don't you see, this is the problem with reacting this way to the world. We don't do surveillance like this. We don't treat people. You're right, we don't, because that was Hydra.
Yeah, it's not really S.H.I.E.L.D. doing this. It's an evil secret
within S.H.I.E.L.D. that we have to excise like a tumor. And
right.
Like,
and it kind of ignores the issue that's set up in the beginning, which is that Fury and Captain America have a fundamental disagreement about how to go about this.
Yes.
And then they're kind of just by the end, they're like, I guess we're on the same team again.
Yeah.
I guess we'll hash that out later.
It's almost like there is no moral or ethical ambiguity with protagonists. That is something that antagonists possess. And we are all fundamentally good. The breakdown between good and evil is not within the individual or the absence of things being black or white in reality. It's actually, yes, that evil people do evil things and you have to fight evil people.
In terms of Marvel movie ratings, just on phase 1 and 2, I would say 9 or 10. On a regular movie scale, I would even say like a 7.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think I'm Marvel 9, just because I have seen further. My real world rating would be similar, maybe a little higher. I think maybe like a 7.5 or 8. I think just because, again, it is, for me, a very enjoyable film.
Oh, that was good. Cut the check. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So while Captain America was busy guarding the nation, somebody else was busy guarding the galaxy.
I hate it. I feel like I helped create that.
You did. You planted
I'm
the
regretting
seed
it now.
that grew into a beautiful, beautiful flower. Like we just said, like it's a very goofy movie. There's a lot of jokes packed into the 2-hour runtime or whatever, but it starts on a downer note. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We were just saying like it's like one of the worst things you can imagine as a child, and then they're just like, come and get your love. Come and get your love. Come and get your love now. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. You know, the Drax bit gets really...
Yeah.
I don't know if it was ever funny. I think there's a couple of the jokes that are funnier than others just because of how they're written.
I wouldn't have minded it maybe so much if they didn't specifically call it out. Like there's a line where Rocket says,
his people are completely literal. Metaphors are gonna go over his head.
I'm like, I didn't need that.
That line always kind of felt a little out of place to me, but this time around, something about even maybe just like the specific wording of it, just his people are very literal. Like, okay.
It made me think of like something that'd be in like Doctor Who or some kind of British comedy sci-fi, you know? They're the Literalians, and they're the alien people that don't get your metaphor.
Metaphor.
In the scene where Ronan goes to see Thanos and kills his assistant, what I read is that at one point when James Gunn was working on the script, he wrote the scene and he said that it played funnier when I first wrote it. And I was like, why would you make that funny?
Why
like,
is that the intention?
Is that just how you approach every scene? And then you go like, oh, maybe I should scale this back because it doesn't work. Like, was that opening scene, was his mom supposed to like, her last words to him were actually just like a bad one-liner or something, you know, like a dad joke that she left him with or something?
Pull my finger.
It's not a fart, it's her dying breath. Guess who James Gunn's second choice was for the role of Peter Quill? It's somebody you're very familiar with, too.
I'm going to say John Krasinski.
Oh, that's actually not a bad choice. No, guess who it was?
Who?
Glenn Howerton.
Okay, I kind of want to see that now.
I am God.
So especially considering what we were saying earlier about their reluctance to have female characters who have a prominent role.
Look at the toy numbers.
Yeah, look at the toy numbers, no women. The film's success was partially attributed to its appeal to both genders. The opening weekend audience was 44% female, which is the biggest proportion ever for an MCU film. You assumed boys...
They don't want to see women characters.
They don't want to see women, and girls are not... They have no interest in this. They will have no interest in this.
Because it doesn't seem like a movie that's like, we're trying to get the ladies in here and give them some... I just think it wasn't made with the thinking that girls and women aren't going to like this. So we just need to get rid of anything that could possibly appeal to them, like a female character.
Yeah.
I forgot you're here.
Thinking about it, it's actually kind of funny with this one that you get the highest proportion of women coming out to see this movie, and actually the person who initially dusted off the IP and said, I think I want to write a script about this, was a woman. Unfortunately, you know, except for the fact that she essentially pulled it out of fucking deep storage, most of, I think, her contributions were pretty much thrown to the wayside, but still, you know.
I mean, even that she should get credit for, because, like, no one was thinking, like, well, they need to get that Guardians of the Galaxy movie going.
Okay, so yeah, so what are your ratings?
Marvel movie rating, I'm going to put it at 8.59. Regular movie rating, I'm going to go like 6 probably.
I think I'm Marvel 8.5, and then I think I'm a Real World. I think same 6.
Yeah,
is about right, because it is an enjoyable movie. I think for somebody like me, because they did like an insane amount of prosthetics, like masks and stuff that were different designs, and so it's just very visually interesting to look at if you're a fucking sci-fi nerd.
I am Groot.
We then get the gang back together and endure Avengers Age of Ultron. The big thing in this movie is that Tony Stark has decided that because they have access to an Infinity Stone, although I don't know if they know that that's what it is at this point, he can do this massive computing thing, and he can make essentially this better version of Jarvis that will be able to operate at like a global scale. It's going to be instrumental to S.H.I.E.L.D.'s operations going forwards, and it's going to be called Ultron.
And it's eerily similar to the evil Nazi Hydra plan of Winter Soldier.
And again, like, just kind of crazy that we know we're in the same universe because we're telling a combined story here, and yet Tony Stark seems to have completely missed the events that happened on the same continent as him.
The plan goes south like immediately. Like as soon as Ultron comes on, he sounds like a sexual predator.
This feels weird.
He's just like obviously evil from the very start.
I'm here to help.
They're all like been sitting around drinking, kind of becomes this like dick measuring contest of who can pick up Thor's hammer. And it actually feels very natural. Like, I've seen people say, including Joss Whedon himself, that like, how do you write a good scene with these people in the room
Chilling.
Together? Yeah,
just like hanging out, not talking about plot stuff.
But I think that they actually did like a very good, you know, actors included, like making that feel very natural and actually like, oh, maybe these people would be able to like sit back, drink a bottle of fucking tequila and just like have a good time together. Right. That's where Marvel is going to, if they get more controlling as opposed to less, they're gonna fucking shoot themselves in the foot, because they were critical of a couple things in this movie that I'm like, oh, you mean the character development? You hated the character development? The fucking scenes they didn't like were all of the flashbacks that people had because of Scarlet Witch getting in their head.
Right.
And then they didn't like the scene at Hawkeye's farmhouse. And I'm just like, that's, again, one of those moments where we're able to step away from the absurdity of this whole thing, give these people a breath, and like see real, genuine interactions between them. As insane as that sounds for me, talking about a fucking Avengers sequel, you know?
Banner jumps over the bar where Scarlett Johansson is standing, and of course his face falls right into her cleavage.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Can
so
you believe
crazy.
that?
And that especially stuck out to me, obviously, because there was a whole thing about on Justice League when he got hired to take over after Zack Snyder. He put in a scene where Flash falls into Wonder Woman's cleavage, and Gal Gadot refused to film that scene, so they got a body double. That's how badly he wanted this gag in this movie. He was like, what is this movie without the face in the titties gag? Ultron teams up, at least initially, with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch,
who have some of the best dialogue that was written for this film.
Best dialogue and worst accents.
Is that why you've come? To end the Avengers?
They're introduced, and the movie has to like explain their powers to us.
He's fast and she's weird.
You know, like, these people are literally asking you how to fight these people. Like, what's the threat they pose? She's weird.
She's weird. Oh, shit.
What the fuck do I do with that?
He's like explaining his plan to them, and they're like, you know, that's kind of horrific. You're gonna like kill a bunch of people. And he's like,
Need to see the big picture.
I don't see the big picture. I have a little picture. I take it out and look at it every day.
and then he starts going on and on about their tragic backstory. She starts talking about their tragic backstory.
Like you said, they're both just like staring into space, like.
And Ultron just stands there and listens. It's so awkward.
We get, I think, my personal favorite piece of CGI in all of the MCU, which is the fucking semi-trailer thing being just flown through the air. I'm not doing a normal movie rating. It doesn't deserve that. I think Marvel, it's like a 3 or a 4.
I'm inclined to put it a little bit above Thor: The Dark World and maybe say like 4, but then it's also way longer.
That's the thing for me.
So it's going to have to probably be 3.
And that's not the end of Phase 2, actually. The Avengers assembling to defeat the threat against the world somehow is not the culmination of this phase, and it is instead a small heist movie.
Starring Paul Rudd.
Yeah, Ant-Man is definitely a kind of tonal shift from Avengers 2. Obviously, it's very much a smaller movie. It's shrunk down. The scales may have shrunk down.
I see what you did. I see what you did. I'll never forget what you've done.
The guy's marketing this suit, but it doesn't actually work yet. And we know that because he's carrying around a portable version of his failed device.
To use as like a secret murder gun.
Yeah, which I guess if it worked, he would just be making small versions of his enemies, which would be very strange.
He's testing more versions of that technology.
Potentially?
I mean...
or he's testing the same technology over and over.
What's the difference?
And it, again, makes just a puddle of goo. And then he says, okay, load up another one without making any changes to the technology or the device. We were saying it's really funny, though, in that scene where he goes to the Avengers compound, lands on the roof. Falcon is somehow alerted to his presence and shows up immediately. Like the Avengers have a security system that alerts them every time a bug lands on the roof, and Falcon's just like running around every time a fly lands on the wall. It's like, oh, intruder, we got an intruder over here.
Yeah, who is this? He's on call like a fucking ICU doctor.
I didn't realize that he actually was allied with ants. Like actual insects.
Yeah.
I just kind of always assumed that he could shrink down really small and, I knew he could get big and stuff.
He's like Spider-Man or Batman. He just has some of those characteristics.
Spider-Man doesn't
that's his name.
Send out an army of spiders to attack his foes.
You've learned about the suit, but you've yet to learn about your greatest allies. The ants.
They've been trying to make an Ant-Man movie since the 1980s. And apparently Stan Lee pitched it, but the company he pitched it to was literally working on Honey, We Shrunk the Kids. And so it's just like the same thing, kind of. And so they were like, no, we're going to pass. Howard Stern tried to acquire the rights in 2000. Yeah, to make a film of Ant-Man. Thank God that didn't happen. Edgar Wright, I think, gets it in 2003. And that's when he starts writing the first script. Dude, he wrote so many versions of it. It goes through so many phases. He's on board with that project. I didn't even realize this. He's on board with that project until 2014. And that's when it gets to the point when they realize because he's like, I want to make an Edgar Wright movie. They're like, we want you to make a Disney Marvel movie. And he's like, that's not going to happen. I mean, I guess even when he is working on it, there's other people kind of working with him on the script at points. Then once he's gone, it's like they bring in somebody else to do it. And then Paul Rudd is helping do it. And he's writing a bunch of the jokes for it with one of the other guys. They're just for months just writing the jokes for it. Evangeline Lilly had a hand in rewriting some of the script. Everyone did. Everyone on Earth. I'm convinced just dudes working at the deli down the street were able to do revisions on Ant-Man after reading about that.
Why not just call this Phase 3?
Which apparently it was initially supposed to be the first film of Phase 3, and then they changed that. I'll read you Kevin Feige's quote about this, and then you can see if you can make any more sense of it than I could. It's not an afterthought. The truth is the phases mean a lot to me and some people, but Civil War's the start of Phase 3. It just is. And Ant-Man is a different kind of culmination of Phase 2 because it very much is in the MCU. You meet new characters and you learn about Hank Pym and his lineage with the MCU over the years. But at the same time, it also picks up the thread of Age of Ultron in terms of heroes, major heroes, Avengers coming from unexpected places, and in that way it connects a lot. Also, Hank Pym's attitude toward Avengers, toward S.H.I.E.L.D., and kind of the cinematic universe in general is much more informed after the events of Age of Ultron and in a certain way before the events of Civil War. He later added, we put Ant-Man at the end of He later added, we put Ant-Man at the end of Phase 2 as opposed to the beginning of Phase 3 because it sets up a lot of the things you're going to see heading into Phase 3, one of which is this mind-bending, reality-altering landscape in Doctor Strange.
So why not have it at the start of Phase 3?
At the beginning of Phase 3. So you don't have a reason. There's just not a good reason, is what you're telling me. I mean, it's kind of funny because they do this with Phase 3 also. We'll get to that, but they go Endgame and then Spider-Man 2. And you're okay? What do you think your rating or ratings, depending on how you see fit, of rating it?
On a Marvel scale, I would probably say like a 7. On a regular movie scale, I mean more like a 5. It's pretty good.
I think that's very fair. Yeah,
Michael Pena just comes through and makes the whole thing, but you know, there's other good stuff too.
We hadn't mentioned him, but we have to mention him because like we both were just like, this performance is such, I don't know whose choice it was. It's so bizarre,
yeah,
but it's so fucking funny. Every single time that dude has a line, it's fucking funny just because he has that weirdo fucking smile on and doesn't stop.
Because we just robbed you.
And that's the end of phase 2. The production of this phase, I think, just puts into stark light what Marvel's doing here. No main female characters. Those toys won't sell well. No directional originality. That's too interesting to be generally appealing. We're focus grouping scripts, bringing in every single name you've never heard of to patch them up and send them limping off, and putting massive stress on visual effects companies.
We're doing a lot of work in post. We'll be doing some CG work to make sure that we have the most up-to-date, newest Audi.
One critic referred to just Marvel Studios as a high-end hot dog factory. And I just think that's really true. The more I read about these movies, the more I'm just like, yeah, this explains everything, because just everything is just like butchering multiple scripts and putting them together. Like it's literally just like making sausage, you know?
Like 50 people making sausage on like an assembly line.
Yeah, and everyone brought in cuts of meat from like different places and different animals. All right, guys, so that's us talking about the MCU Phase 2. We've got some sharp decline action coming at you guys soon, and then we are going to hit Phase 3. So stay tuned, and we will see all y'all soon.